Hi, everybody. I apologize. I don't know what happened to my intro today. I may be a little bit nervous. So, yeah. Hi, Kristen. Let's see. Sole parent charging a kiddo to get into beauty and not chasing him. It's okay. Thank you. Hey, daydreaming. I appreciate that. So, again, like I said, I missed I messed up and I didn't do my intro. I don't know. I'm a little ragey. I might not seem like I'm ragey, but I am a little ragey today on my research. And so this story just keeps getting more and more gross as I go along. But, oh, good. You can hear me. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I actually did something to my hair today. So, why not, right? So, hey, tree hugger, thanks for showing up. I want to start today's deeper dive into Trails Carolina by explaining to people who may not understand, again, what the troubled teen industry is. This is mainly an American phenomenon, although in my research, I've learned that a lot of Indigenous Canadians are going, thanks. I have a really hard time taking compliments, so I'm just going to say thank you with a chuckle. Okay, the troubled teen industry started in the early 1980s, really as a industry, and it takes its basis from the first drug rehab program in 1957 or 8. I don't like to get out misinformation, but in the middle to late 1950s, there was a rehab opens called Synanon, and they did something called the game. And what the game is using every possible form of verbal attacks and not just attacks, just constant breaking down of your it breaks down your soul. It breaks the self, right? But not in the good way. Like, say, the Buddhists are all about disconnecting from the self and the ego and all of that. Not like that. The game is specifically to, they thought, break the cycle and of addiction. However, the first other, I guess we'll call them cult, because Synanon eventually became a cult, and that was pretty creepy. But and they started in I'm gonna mess up my hair because I'm insecure. And everything backwards. Okay, so our good buddy L. Ron Hubbard decided he was going to steal Synanon's basis for his drug program, Scientology's drug program, Narconon. Also using the game, but also using his, let's call them, unique Scientology strategies, tech, as they call it. And then in the 80s, very beginning of the 80s, started this trend of tough love. I personally believe that tough love is the opposite of love, because love shouldn't be tough. Love can be difficult. I think we all know that, but it shouldn't be, you're going to do, like, parents or guardians, grandparents, whatever. It shouldn't be, you're going to do things our way, or we're going to cut you off. We're going to send you away to some program. And that's where Straight ink comes in, which is scared straight. It ended up just being changed to straight before eventually, before it eventually was closed down. And this spread, right? You have Hazelden and everything that's attached with Hazelden in Minnesota. And you've got Elevations RTC. There was a place called Diamond Ranch Academy, which we're going to cover soon because there have been multiple deaths from Diamond Ranch Academy. And as Meg Applegate found out recently, they reopened by rebranding themselves and changing their name. And that's unacceptable. Yeah. But if anyone has any questions in the chat about anything I haven't covered in the troubled teen industry, so one of the practices, which is the practice that was used with this young 12-year-old boy who died at Trails, Carolina, is transporting, which is a really nice way of saying legally kidnapping a child from their bed in the middle of the night. The boy in question at Trails, Carolina was a New York State resident. So he had the goons come in the middle of the night while his parents watched, woke him up, told him that they were going to come with him the easy way or the hard way. 12 years old. Just want to make that really clear. I can tell you, here, let me put this up. I can tell you, daydreaming, how these places keep operating. There are several states, mainly right now what I'm noticing is Utah and North Carolina, although I do believe that North Carolina soon will be more regulated. The problem is a lack of regulations. That's why these places are still able to operate. And I have a more specific figure for when I said it was a multi-billion-dollar industry. It is a $24 billion industry. That's why there's still, and a lot of people with money, wealthy people, send their children that don't fall in line to these places. It's been a 40+ year practice, especially in the wealthier families, or like myself, because I did not come from a wealthy family. People with good insurance. Okay, I really need to start looking here. Okay, you're backwards. All right, what do we got here, Kristen? In my state, Texas State Foster Care Services contract with certain residential treatment centers to send kiddos in foster care with diagnosed mental health disorders. Are any of them in the same places? Are any of them the same places? Yes, they are, because special ed and foster care and stuff like that. If you're going to a foster home, no, it's not the same thing. But the foster care homes, yes, they're somewhere between like a child prison and a troubled teen industry program, because none of them you can leave, but Thomas needed to make an anyway. So I'm going to ignore the cat as he continues to do this, but back to my train of thought. Apologies. I'm still struggling with the ick too. This is a pretty hardy ick going around. But so what I've learned is something that has started to happen. It's looking like maybe the last 15 years, possibly 20 years. I haven't gotten to the basis of when the IEPs, the individualized educational plans, started. Yes, absolutely. School districts contract with TTI providers, and that's why I'm getting into the IEPs. So the IEPs, I have a short video here because I'm kind of a stickler for facts, and I want to make sure that I get this right. But from what I understand, when I was a kid, we had special ed. Now, IEP is, I guess, the progressive, politically correct term for special ed because apparently special ed was too divisive or offensive. I don't really know. But I have a video here that explains what an IEP is and how they work. So if you give me 1 second, I'm going to go ahead and share this video real quick. There. All right.
Hey, Lisa Leitner here, and I'd like to take a minute or two today to help you understand what is an IEP. Welcome to my class. Hey, it's back to school time, and we are going to talk about what is an IEP and how to get one. I'm Lisa Leitner. I am a special education advocate and have been for 12 years. Sometimes I get so deep into IEPs that I forget the basics, and I forget that some parents don't even know what one is. To help you understand what is.
Okay, I just wanted to pause this for a second and point out how upbeat and positive and bubbly she sounds, right? This is a great thing for kids. Woohoo! Yeah, I don't buy that, but we're going to go ahead and listen to her super upbeat video.
An IEP. Welcome to my class. Hey, it's back to school time. IEPs and special education are the same thing. If your child has an IEP, then they are receiving special education. To receive special education, a student or a child must have an IEP. They're one and the same. IEP stands for Individualized Education Program. Some folks use the word plan in place of program. Should also note that IEP is a defined document in a federal statute known as IDEA, or the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This is the federal law that was enacted in 1975 that guaranteed our kids FAPE. So now you're saying FAPE, what is FAPE? FAPE stands for a free and appropriate education, and it is something that every child in the United States and its territories and overseas military bases is guaranteed. This has been defined on many levels by numerous Supreme Court cases.
I just wanted to point that out. Numerous Supreme Court cases. That means I have a lot more research to do to find out what the Supreme Court has done to our children. Disturbing just to hear that sentence.
So, how do you get an IEP? Well, it starts with evaluations. If you believe that your child is struggling in school, you want to write to your school and ask them for comprehensive evaluations for special education. Once those evaluations are completed, your child will either be found eligible or ineligible for special education. There are 14 categories of eligibility, including things like specific learning disability, autism, and deaf, hard of hearing. It's important to note that while your child may have a disability or learning disability of some kind, either physical or cognitive, that disability must demonstrate that it interferes with their ability to access and benefit from their education, thus requiring special education. So, if you'd like more information, I have over 600 articles on my website.
No, we're done with her. That I found to be so distressing. Really, it was absolutely distressing to hear her talk about this special education. Now I don't have kids, so I don't know how the education system works here anymore. How well it's done varies by school district. Well, my child has autism and has an IEP. My experience in our school district is not bad at all. Kristen, I'm really grateful to hear that. And you either have a really good school district or a good program for autistic children. I find that putting all of these different type of individualized learning abilities lumped into one is going to, right, your experience 20 years ago. My experience is from, let's see, I started special ed in third grade. Embarrassing. So let's say 1978. Excuse me. I apologize. So lumping all these kids together, it just feels like well, for me, it was just an all-in-one. Whoever just isn't sitting and abiding and listening and raising your hands and doing all your stuff as the teacher expects you to do, they throw you in special ed. Really, it's, for me, was remedial and simplistic. I'm sure that it has gotten better through the years. I don't doubt that at all. But I still question the idea of an IEP, because for me, looking up the IEPs, having strangers who have limited access to your kids, and I mean, the teachers have 5-day-a-week access for 9 months with your kids. How much time do they spend with these IEPs? And another thing that I learned is that they don't have to have degrees in special education. That would be saved for special education teachers. But you would think that the people that are putting children in special education, or then having parents send their children away to these troubled teen industry programs, would be educated. No, it's a degree in marketing, business, stuff like that. And I did look that up. It is not a requirement to be an IEP consultant to have a degree in special education or education. So that's troubling. Or social work or psychology. Again, this seems to be quite the trend in this industry, and we have to start looking at school districts and how they decide, the ways in which they're going to treat children. And as we're seeing more children on the autism spectrum, and other learning disabilities or differing abilities, I really think that the way that the K through 12 school system in the United States needs to be overhauled. Like, take a look at it and overhaul this, because it's becoming an epidemic to just be like, oh, I can't handle my kid. It just, whatever you think is best, and we'll do that. We'll send them to this wilderness camp, in 6th or 7th grade. They actually have children at Trails Carolina. What I noticed, that the children that were in the bunkhouse with the boy who died were ages 10 to 14. 4 kids, aside from him, that were between 10 and 14. I don't want you to hush. I want to know. I want to know from you your experiences so that I understand the good side of it. The school personnel who evaluate students have to be licensed specialists in school psychology. Their assessment is what informs an IEP. Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome to know. I don't know if that is if that's universal, if that's a federal thing, or if that is school district by school district. Once I get into the nuts and bolts of the Supreme Court decisions, and also who enacted these decisions, I'll be able to address that further. I just wanted to introduce my limited knowledge of IEP since my last video the other day. I'm grateful to have Kristen and Tree Hugger in here to help me with this. Let's see what Adrian has to say. With the right support, children with special educational needs should be able to access mainstream education. I agree. I don't know if they should be, I I do think that regular schools should be overhauled to adapt to everyone having these differing abilities. Like everybody learns differently. I've always had a really hard time just sitting, listening to someone talk, somebody reading. If I'm not interacting with my education, I'm not getting it. And I'm being told to go home and do the homework. I've got 16 different things going on at home as a kid, you know, not great house life, home life, whatever. I struggle with the word home because I don't really think I ever had one. Maybe my grandpa was the closest thing I ever had to a home. But so I wanted to cover a little bit of that. It was very important to me. I also found a transcript of the 911 call. I want to share that with you. Now, this is a transcript of 911 call in boy's death at Wilderness Camp released by Sheriff's Office. I am going to play the video, but I just want to read this really quick. Wait, what happened? Still learning. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with me. This is learning on the fly is an interesting thing, but it's most important to me that I get this information out. I'm not going to shut up. I'm not going to shut up. I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not going to stop exposing them until they are held accountable for what they've done and shut down permanently. So the Transylvania County Sheriff's Office has released a transcript of the 911 call between the Trails Carolina field instructor and 911 dispatch regarding the 12-year-old's death. On February 3rd, the call between the dispatcher and field instructor lasted just a minute and a half, with the instructor hanging up before answering all of the dispatcher's questions. So let's watch what they have to say about that.
Owens & Minor is hiring. We offer a climate-controlled, clean work environment with retention bonuses and industry-leading safety protocols. Medical, dental, and vision benefits start day one. 401k with employer match, paid time off, and more. Apply at owens-minor.com today.
Today, the Transylvania County Sheriff released the 911 transcript of a 12-year-old's death at Trails Carolina. A field instructor told dispatchers, "We woke him up. He's very cold. We are checking for a pulse. We are trying to resuscitate right now." The February 3rd call lasted just a minute and a half, the instructor hanging up before answering dispatchers' questions. A first responder reached the remote camp 12 minutes after being dispatched. The FBI is assisting with the investigation. Go to WLOS.com to see the entire 911 conversation.
So, key points. A minute and a half, they hung up, and it took first responders 12 minutes to get there. First of all, you're not supposed to hang up with the 911 dispatcher until authorities arrive. That's my understanding. You were supposed to answer questions so that they have the information that they need on their way. So they know exactly who to dispatch and how dire it is. But they just decided to, yeah, okay, thanks, and hung up. I will never understand that either. We are not finished yet. The Transylvania County Sheriff's Office, the search warrants did say that they are listing this under as a crime of involuntary manslaughter. Now, they haven't been able to speak with who are in the bunkhouse because Trails Carolina has advised the parents not to allow the children to speak because they say it will further traumatize them. You know what's going to further traumatize them? Never being able to speak out about what happened that night in front of their faces when the new kid died for having a panic attack. It doesn't make sense. So that is very, very, very disturbing. Now, I'm really impressed with WBTV out of Charlotte, North Carolina. They have done extensive research. And another one, yes, Kristen, never apologize for speaking your truth ever. Please don't do that. I appreciate you sharing your information. It helps to keep me informed because I don't have a finger on the pulse of what's going on in schools today, except through friends and family, right? So, I want to play this next video that I'm going to play is survivors of Trails Carolina who have spoken out. This came out today. Today's the 23rd today. So we're going to play this video here. From WBTV Charlotte.
It's a new year and it's time for a new you. Quit making
I
excuses for your
apologize.
ED. The specialist at the Carolina.
Hang on a second. I thought I'd gotten myself past these commercials, but I haven't.
Of a wilderness camp for troubled kids in North Carolina.
The camp is called Trails Carolina. A 12-year-old boy died at the camp earlier this month. WBTV's chief investigative reporter Nick Oxer has been digging deeper into the camp for years.
And now he's
This
sitting
guy's
down
great.
with former participants, continuing his investigation that you will only see on WBTV.
Clara Mann's memories from her time at Trails Carolina are as clear as the sky on a cold winter night.
I deeply suffered at Trails Carolina, and I will continue to suffer for the rest of my life.
Mann went to Trails Carolina in the fall of 2019. She said her time there mostly involved staying in the woods, day and night.
There's nobody to protect you. You're just a number, and you're a bad kid, and that's that.
While you were at Trails, did you feel safe?
No, I never felt safe for a moment I was at Trails. Ever.
I sat down with Mann weeks after a 12-year-old boy died at the camp in early February, the second child to die at Trails Carolina in a decade.
It's terrible, but I really wasn't surprised.
When I heard about the death at Trails, it hurt me a lot more than I thought it would, because my first reaction was I made it out, but he didn't.
This 14-year-old went to Trails Carolina in 2022. Parents asked we not use her name.
I don't want this to happen again. I don't want more kids to go through this again and again.
How much therapy did you get while you were there?
Once a week with a therapist, and it was like an hour session.
Did it help you?
No, not at all. If anything, it really strained the relationship between me and my parents, me and therapy in general.
This isn't the first time we've heard stories like this girl's or like Mann's. WBTV's been investigating Trails Carolina since 2021. Regulators took little action against the camp, not even inspecting the camp as often as the law requires. That changed last week when, amidst questions from WBTV, regulators with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services removed all children from the camp. But it's not been shut down for good. Until that happens, former participants like Clara Mann will continue speaking out.
I would say that if you love your child, you will not send them to a place like that. It is a cruel, inhumane environment.
Now, I reached out to a spokeswoman for Trails Carolina for this story. The camp issued a statement saying, in part, quote, "We acknowledge that out of the 2,700 individuals who participated in our program, there are those who believe they were not helped." Now, Mann is one of two former female participants suing Trails Carolina, alleging that the camp failed to take action after reporting being sexually assaulted by another camper. Guys, I'll have that story coming up tonight on WBTV News at 6.
Wow, this all seems to have developed so quickly. We learned about that terrible death just earlier this month, and now we're hearing campers being removed. It's just happening so fast.
We continue investigating, asking questions, and at the same time, developments keep unfolding as well. We're covering all of it.
All right, Nick, thank you for staying on top of that for us. And if you can't watch.
Right. So I want to pull this up because this is exactly how I feel. Now, I can speak on this personally. The whole, we understand that out of the 2,700 children that we've had at our program, that some of them didn't have a good experience. Well, this is what I was told at my first program when I have a special website to share. I'm really excited to expose this website. I also may be challenging people to Google review North Carolina. I don't know. So my issue with that statement is that's garbage, right? Like, okay, yeah, obviously. So now we know today that there are 2 former female residents at Trails Carolina who have filed a lawsuit against them. It was 1, now it's 2. Why do I get a feeling that that's just going to keep growing? Pretty sure it's going to keep growing. Let's see what Kristen said. If you know therapists do contract with RTC, they aren't even employees of the RTC. They just get paid a rate to come in and see the kids and may not really know what's going on. Yeah, well, I find that to be troubling because if you're going to send your kid to an RTC, the person who's there, the consultant that's there to assess, should be a little bit more, I don't know, knowledgeable about what the kids need and not just put that blanket of mental health issues, drug abuse, being autistic, being deaf, being blind. These are reasons that people are going to send their kids away. They just want to. By the way, none of those therapists I know chose to keep doing it for very long. It says a lot, Kristen. It says a lot. Because I think that there are people that go into this with the best of intentions. And when they realize the scam, they can't stomach it. They don't want to be a part of destroying a child's life. And if that sounds a little bit dramatic, it's not. It's not, because I'm 53 years old and I am frozen at 14. I mean, whatever. I can, I'm an intelligent person. I can hold conversations. I can kind of have relationships. I can have friendships that are lasting. But I will tell you that my friends, my core group of friends that I've had for 34, going on 35 years now, didn't know anything about my troubled teen industry experiences until last year. They knew that I got sent. I told them about 5 years ago that I had been sent to the drug rehab program as a teenager, and I didn't have a drug program. I mean, it's a problem. I had plenty of programs. I just didn't have a problem. And of course, that was a little bit, confusing to them. And then when I started learning, I started sharing things. Some are more interested than others. I don't hold anything against any of my friends who aren't interested in learning more about this because have kids, or if they do have kids, they're grown. So there's not a really, big issue. It's just I do know that some of my closest friends haven't looked into this so that they can understand me and why I've been the way I've been and have been such a runner since I was 14. I actually started running away before I was sent away, but once I was released back into the wild, I didn't stop running away until I was 47 years old. So that I find to be really important. And I have another story here, and this is also, I'm going to make sure that this is the same video at 1 second. Nope, it's not. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to show another video that has a couple of different survivors speaking out as well, which I just feel very, very happy that the former participants and survivors of this place are speaking out. It's really good. I can also say that Unsilenced is working with survivors and helping them if they do decide that they want to speak out. So we're going to check the story out real quick.
December, a 12-year-old boy died earlier this month.
That's right. The camp is called Trails Carolina, and tonight we're hearing from a camper who describes the sleeping method they use for children when they first arrive at the camp.
WBTV's chief investigator.
This is very important because in this video, they're going to talk about the burrito that I brought up in the last video, the bivvy as they call it. So pay special attention to this.
Reporter Nick Oxner is digging deeper in a story you'll see only on WBTV.
I immediately went through a list in my head of like the ways that I was treated that could have caused his death.
Vic Mitterando went to Trails Carolina for 3 months in 2017 and 2018. He's speaking out now in the wake of the 12-year-old boy who died during his first night at the camp. A search warrant filed by criminal investigators described how the boy had to sleep that night in a bivvy bag strung up on a thick piece of plastic with an alarm that would go off if he moved. It's a slightly different version of a contraption Mitterando and other former campers have described having to sleep in themselves, called a burrito.
You read maybe the details of the contraption that they said he was sleeping in. Did it sound like the burrito to you?
Yeah, the restrictive component of it was the same, yeah. I remember I was on burrito for 2 weeks, and I remember not being able to sleep because I could not move. I could not breathe very well. It was just kind of like a cocoon.
What's going through your mind as you're laying in this contraption?
A lot of it is like, what did I do to deserve this?
We would lay on a tarp, and then they'd wrap it over us, restraining us from any movement.
So you can't move?
I'm like, you had to stay like this the whole time.
For the whole night?
Mm-hmm.
And as you're laying there, that can't be comfortable.
Mm-mm.
What's going through your mind?
Well, at that point for me, I just didn't understand by the people that were my role models in my life, like my parents. I just didn't understand why would any parent send their kid here.
This 14-year-old girl, whose parents asked we not use her name, went to Trails Carolina in 2022.
When I heard about the death at Trails, it hurt me a lot more than I thought it would, because my first reaction was I made it out, but he didn't.
The Transylvania County Sheriff's Office said the medical examiner has ruled the 12-year-old boy's death as unnatural, but no cause of death has been announced.
These are kids. These are kids who are depressed and anxious and suicidal, and they don't want to be there.
If a staff member, if a leader from Trails were sitting here today, what would you say to them?
Shame on you. What you're doing is hurting people, and in some sick way you might think that you're helping them because of the amount of money that you're getting, but you're just hurting children.
Reporting in Transylvania County, Nick Oxner, WBTV, on your side.
A spokeswoman for Trails Carolina issued a statement but didn't respond specifically to the use of the burrito or similar sleeping method, instead saying in part, quote, "We acknowledge that out of the 2,700 individuals who participated in our program, there are those who believe they were not helped." You can stream all of our coverage of Trails Carolina online right now at WBTV.com and on the WBTV.
Wow. Again, same blanket statement. No pun intended. But again, that just this absolutely 100%. I agree that the cause of death was abuse, and it just everything I read and everything I see, wow, right? Like I don't even believe that this is happening right now. I can't. I have a hard time. So now I'm going to go to a local paper talking about the FBI getting involved in this, which to me, some people might not be like, ooh, FBI, but you know what? If we're going to get the FBI's attention on this story, then that's huge, right? I don't like to call it a story because this is a boy's life that was only 12 years. And I have a real problem with that. So we are going to look at this article now. Build this up. myself here. Okay, the FBI is now assisting in the death investigation of a 12-year-old boy at a Western North Carolina therapeutic wilderness camp. That is according to the Transylvania County Sheriff's Office spokesperson who gave a February 13th interview to the Citizen Times about the probe. Now in its second week at the Trails Carolina camp in Lake Coxwell community. Sheriff's deputies have been frustrated by the lack of access to adults and children who were present during the February 3rd death, said spokesperson John Nicholson, who also said investigators anticipated a long wait for toxicology results. The FBI is doing some analysis for us on computers, on laptops, Nicholson told the Citizen Times. The electronics were taken from the camps along with cell phones and personal belongings of the boy using a search warrant approved by a judge. The camp, which has an average price of $66,000 for an 83-day outdoor experimental mental health treatment program. Let me repeat that. $66,000 for an 83-day outdoor experimental mental health treatment program. When did our kids become guinea pigs? Just a question. And the sheriff's office has flashed over deputy statements that the death was suspicious and that Trails Carolina was not fully cooperating. On February 13th, Nicholson sought to clarify the description, saying, suspicious can mean a death not attended by medical personnel and when there are no clear answers as to why a person would be deceased. In this case, an apparently healthy child who died within 24 hours of arriving at a camp from his home in New York. Deputies have interviewed one staff member present in the room where the boy slept, and another had reached out to schedule an interview, he said, but they have not been able to talk to the man, the two remaining staffers. So that means there were 3 staffers in the bunkhouse that night. The camp has also not provided names of parents, something deputies could use to ask permission to interview the children, Nicholson said. Officials with the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, meanwhile, they said social workers were blocked from assessing the children. The campus said they were following the law and protecting children by removing them from the site of the death. Parents declined interviews with law enforcement, a camp spokesperson said. The search warrant described the boy as being found with foam coming from his mouth, a possible sign of having ingested poison. There can be a whole host of reasons why that would occur, Nicholson told the Citizen Times. The more common would be the child ingested something that would be toxic to them. The test results from the North Carolina Medical Examiner's Office typically take quite some time, the sheriff spokesperson said when asked about a timeline. I mean, that's an answer. Responding to the most recent statements by the sheriff's office, Trails Carolina spokesperson Wendy D'Alessandro said, we all agree this investigation will take some time. Well, that's her. The death certificate details. According to the death certificate obtained by the Citizen Times and the search warrant, the boy was a resident of the wealthy Upper East Side neighborhood in New York City. With a wealthy Upper East Side neighborhood in New York City and was brought to the camp on February 2nd. The boy was loud and irate when he arrived at the camp and refused dinner, but later ate snacks. Camp counselor Jackson Hunt told investigators, the warrant said. Per camp policy, he spent his first night on the bunkhouse floor in a sleeping bag inside a bivy sack, a type of one-person shelter. Now, I just want to say something about the boy being loud and irate when he arrived at the camp. You know why he was loud and irate? Because the goons that picked him up didn't say a word to him while they were traveling, and he had no idea where he was going. So he was in shock when he showed up. I thought that was important to share. Starting around midnight, he began to experience a panic attack, and Hunt and another counselor stood against a wall. Hunt did not say if he or other counselors attempted to assist the boy, the warrant said, but they checked on him at midnight, 3 a.m., 6 a.m., and 7:45 a.m. when they found him cold and stiff to the touch. EMS was called and life-saving efforts made, but he was determined to have died February 3rd. Detectives attempted to talk to the other campers, but were denied access. Findings of deficiency, lawsuits. was important. This was another thing that I discussed in the last video. The death was not the first at the camp. In 2014, a 17-year-old Atlanta boy died of hypothermia. Authorities at the time said Alex Stanford Lansing of Atlanta was camping with Trails Carolina and ventured off on his own through the forest. Not necessarily what I've heard, but I don't want to. North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, which certifies the camp, has filed 5 statements of deficiencies regarding the camp from 2018 to 2023. The latest citation was June 12, 2023, when it found that the camp implemented training in seclusion, physical restraint, and isolation timeout before getting approval by state regulators. So they went ahead and did all these things without permission. Interesting. And they're still open. In a separate incident, a former camper is suing the Trails Carolina in federal court, saying staff was negligent in not preventing another female camper from sexually assaulting her when she was 12, as well as sexually assaulting 2 other girls. Despite the facade of providing a safe and therapeutic residential treatment center for children, Trails Carolina has failed to screen and assess the children in its legal custody and creates an environment where troubled children have to sexually assault other children, said a suit filed February 10th by Gertie Siegel in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of North Carolina. The camping counselor, Dario Kane, also named as a defendant, had not responded to the suit. Spokesperson D'Alessandro said the camp was unaware of the lawsuit until it had been contacted by the media. Sure. We haven't been served the lawsuit, so we won't be able to respond to its allegation. Okay, so that is the end of that. We're going to turn that off. Let's unpack that a little bit. Give me 1 second. My apologies. That's a combination of the congestion and the emotion that I feel regarding this. So I don't know. I don't know about any of you, but this place sounds so incredibly shady. And sure, you don't want to necessarily, speak on something that's going to get you in trouble. You go on the record, whatever. But they know, especially a spokesperson for the camp is going to say that they aren't aware of the lawsuit. I call BS. BS. Everything the D'Alessandro lady says is BS. I apologize. My digestive issues are acting up because of my emotions. So am I almost all my waking hours and during my sleep, which is, it's not gotten much better. I still sleep in pockets and have nightmares and night terrors. But this is really affecting me. So that's why I'm putting all of my energy into it, because it needs to come to an end. I want to see. Okay. I was told that this website had been shut down, but guess what I found? Here it is, folks. Trails Carolina's website. And that is trailscarolina.com. Look at this. Isn't it sweet? Helping families reconnect and heal and thrive. Call now. Much more information. Let's see. So then, of course, all three whole reviews they have there. It's amazing. It's made live. This little No. Anyway, you can go to their website. I actually I'm going to do something Monday. I'm going to go live and do something daring. I'm not going to say what it is, just in case anyone on this program or any other program is watching. None of your business what I do until after I do it. Because I'm in control of my life, unlike the children that we ruin and destroy. So what we do here. South Carolina Wilderness Therapy, proven results, compassionate nothing. Really? Somebody explained to me, like I'm 4 years old, how compassionate measures are physical restraint to the point of death. Nothing else explains this boy stuff to me. 90% of students showed improvement in extremely significant symptoms of anxiety and depression 12 months after graduation. What? What's the scale of that? What are those statistics? Who did those statistics? Let me guess. Trails Carolina? Because this is what you hear all the time. Anywhere between 90 and 98% success rate. I don't see how sending a kid to a wilderness program in the middle of the forests of North Carolina and having to tie their food up in bags up in a tree so bears don't get them, and with no training on how to go out there and live like that. So here is a little bit about Trails Carolina Wilderness Therapy Program. Trails Carolina offers nationally recognized, trauma-informed youth wilderness therapy programs based in Western North Carolina. At Trails, our mission is to help children and teens who struggle with various mental health issues and behavioral concerns. Increase their self-confidence. Practice healthy habits and coping mechanisms. Apply relationship skills to develop healthy relationships. Is that by all of the sexual assault? Is that how they're building their relationship skills? Learn effective interpersonal communication skills in order to live a healthy life. Interpersonal communication skills like screen therapy, attack therapy, where you focus on one person and you just point out, say a girl decides that she wants to do her hair, put some makeup on, wear a nice outfit. And she hasn't been doing that. She's been a teacher, she sweats her hair up, she hasn't been showering. She feels kind of good about herself one day and she decides that she wants to do something for herself to make herself feel good. Guess what everybody does? And we'll start with the person in charge of, say, the counselor or the administration. Administration, I'm not sure at Trails Carolina how much direct access they have to the kids, but given that there only seems to be about 18 to 20 kids at this program at a time, it's fair to say that everybody on staff at Trails Carolina, which they say is 75 plus people, has some sort of interaction with these kids. Well, everybody's going to look at this kid and they're going to say, "You're a slut. Are you trying to get boys' attention? Is that why you did your hair all up and you got makeup? I see you're looking at so and so over there. Are you trying to get in bed with her? Are you trying to make something happen?" And then the kids start. And we all have been kids and we know how vicious kids can be, especially when they're given free rein to say every single awful thing that you can imagine being said to each other. Because they know that it's going to be their turn at some point. They're going to get their big thing while they can. I had to explain that. Our wilderness therapy program integrates a family systems approach to treatment with wilderness adventure therapy that combines strategic shifts of intervention, well-timed elements of wilderness expedition, and a natural horsemanship curriculum, group work, and academic. I haven't heard anybody talk about academics at South Carolina. I didn't know about the equine therapy. I'm 100% for equine therapy. I think that, or what they're calling, what they're calling horsemanship curriculum. That's actually kind of great. I know that it does work. And they use that with kids, they use that with adults. So there's something positive, but family systems approach, the families are involved. The children are not allowed to interact with their families. The families do not come and visit. If they do allow phone calls are monitored. If they allow written correspondence, the correspondence is checked by staff before given to the kids, and any outgoing transcripts are read before they are mailed out to make sure that you're not telling them anything bad. And it doesn't matter if they are saying anything bad because the parents have already been told by these programs that anything your children say or do is just to get them to break down and take their kids back out of the programs in order to get back out there and restart their bad behavior or say their drug use if they are in fact actually doing drugs. And if they're not doing drugs, they've learned a whole lot about drugs in the program, so they're more likely to try them when they get out to numb the memories of all the horrific abuses that they suffered. With these features, Trails Carolina amplifies the benefits of traditional wilderness therapy for troubled youth and creates a holistic approach to individual and family treatment, resulting in a unique opportunity to gain multiple professional perspectives of the same student. Now, traditional wilderness therapy for troubled youth, what does that mean? And holistic approach to individual and family treatment. So holistic to me means out of the scope of the medical community, right? It's a natural method. Basically, what I'm taking from this, whether they mean it this way or not, is they're kind of flying by the seat of their pants here. Like, you're throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks, right? Great. Yeah. Your individual therapy sessions and wilderness adventure activities, our treatment program, helps prepare troubled teens to grow into balanced, happy, and healthy young adults. I call BS 100 times. I call BS. It's not. That's not what they're doing. So, I just had to share their. Website. Oh, the crystal ball is going again. Funny outside. I'm super happy about this. I'm gonna go for a walk after we finish up here. But I covered everything that I wanted to share. I just want to have a little bit of a conversation now about what we went over. And it seems that through, see, this is something that nice. Tree hugger did equine therapy, very limited in rehab. Did you find it helpful? I haven't ever been able to do it, but I have seen it. I know I have friends that have gone through it, and it does seem to be very helpful, and it helps you with, correct me if I'm wrong, patience and trust, because the horses can feel your energy, right? So you have to be calm with them, and there's the thing about lifting their horses, right? You kind of massage their Achilles to get them to trust, right? For trust after essay. Yeah, that's really important. And okay, we found one good thing that they do, but I don't even know if they do it, or if they're just saying that they do it. This is all just boilerplate stuff they throw up at any website about therapy programs. Yes, it's total nonsense, and there's nothing special about their website. It's across the board the same as anything else that I've looked into. But since we're focusing on Trails Carolina right now, I felt it important to share their website. Just in case anybody wants to check it out. Let's see. Family systems is a very specific type of therapy, and very trained therapists who can't do it without family presence. So they are. So they're not actually doing family system therapy because they don't allow the families to come. So how can you get them involved in it? Nothing like a glossy brochure to hoodwink families into thinking they're doing something good. 100%. Everybody here knows about my brochure, my beautiful resort brochure that ended up being a hospital, and there was no pool. I'm still salty about the fact that there wasn't a pool. Unless there was a pool in the hospital and maybe never told us. But yeah. They say they do a lot and have fancy brochures. Yeah. Yeah, they say a lot. $66,000 for 83 days. Let that sink in. Per child. So if that's 18 to 20 children, I will not math. But somebody else that math can go ahead and math it up. But I might be able to do that with my phone. So 66,000. I'm doing a sticker for 18. Okay, 66,000 times 18 is $1.188 million. That's a lot of money. So what do you think these administrators, spokespeople, counselors, staff members are in this for? But there might be some counselors and some staff members that are in it for the good of the children. That's entirely possible. They don't last very long. All of these programs have a very, very, very high turnover rate. They're in it for the money. It's all about the money. It's not about the kids. They don't care if the kids get better. They don't even care if the kids survive. Obviously, they just want that money. And you can't have therapy without kids. So, and yes, it is just a job. It is just a job. And I have questions, serious, not nice, not quiet questions for the 2 to 3 staffers. I've heard differing stories that there was 2 staffers in that room of 5 children, or there was 3. But so a kid starts to have a panic attack in a bivvy, which is really just half is just completely down on a sleeping bag with an alarm on it on a thin plastic mat. Kids start to have a panic attack. What do? They stand up against the wall and watch him have that panic attack. That, I call BS on that too. Then we have we checked on him at 3, and we checked on him at 6, and then when we checked on him at 7:45, which I imagine would be probably the latest that the kid is allowed to sleep in. I don't know what time their kids wake up because I don't know enough. I'm still learning about this particular camp and how much time they spend at base camp, which is what they call the area where the bunkhouses and the main building are. I don't know how long they spend at base camp and how long they spend out in the woods. But rigor mortis doesn't set in an hour and 45 minutes. No, it doesn't. And I would like to remind you that this boy's hands were placed on his chest. Knees were facing the sky, and his pants and underwear were over his right shoulder. So his sleeping bag must have been open, right? So wouldn't the alarm go off if the sleeping bag was unzipped? Because if you're in a restrictive sleeping bag, you can't get your bottoms off. And why would you get your bottoms off? To roll them up over your shoulder and then put your knees up. What? It doesn't make any sense. None of it makes any sense. If anyone can make any sense of this, other than what screams to me, and I imagine everybody else, to SA, right? This is the most important thing that I can think of doing right now. Is just continuing to speak about it. If I sound repetitive, I don't care. If it bothers anybody that I sound repetitive, I don't care. Don't watch. It does matter to me that people watch because I do want to get this story out. But I don't care. I'm not in the, I don't care how many people are in. my live videos, it doesn't matter. As long as I know that I'm speaking out, it's going to reach somebody that goes into YouTube and searches Trails Carolina or wilderness camps or troubled teen industry. I know that this video is going to come up and they're going to have an opportunity to see that these are the things that are happening. Maybe it's a parent that's doing research, trying to figure out how they can help their kid that is struggling. Kids do struggle, and it is important to find ways to help the kids that are struggling. But this is not the answer. Troubled teen industry programs, RTCs, therapeutic boarding schools, wilderness camps are not the answer. No, they're not the answer. Because you also don't know what other kids are going to be there. Are you going to have kids that have gotten in trouble for assaulting people or SA, or or have been victims of SA who then turn into SA abusers themselves because they don't know anything else? You don't know where you're sending the kids. So it's important to me to help inform parents. It's helpful for me. It's important to me to reach survivors that are looking for answers as to what they went through and if their suspicions are correct that it was abuse. And it's just important to me that I have some kind of voice, because I didn't have a voice from age 14 to 52. So it's important to me to speak. So I am, and I'm going to continue to do so as the news breaks, as I learn more. And I'm also reaching out to other creators, content creators who do, I guess this particular story would fall under a true crime kind of vibe. It is specific to me, but again, I feel like I can reach more people if I reach out to content creators who also do true crime and may be interested in covering this story, because it's just so unbelievably important to me. So I just want to cover the last few comments here, and then I'm going to wrap up. I need some time to get ready before Sharon starts over at Surviving Together. That's TKD for Life, Surviving Together at 3 p.m. today. And her channel focuses on SMA. Daydreaming, he had rigor mortis. He was already dead the last time they checked on him. Yes. So that tells us, right, that the people that said that they checked on him at 3 and 6 are lying, right? We don't know who did what to him, but we do know that something happened to that boy, and it wasn't in the snacks that he ate, and he didn't have anything on him that he could take, because they shake them down when they walk in. If he wasn't hiding any drugs that he could take, I'm not buying that as an excuse. If he was given anything, that was given to him by staff. Thank you, Daydreaming. I appreciate you, and I do. I appreciate you standing with me, and I thank you. I'm so glad we are ready to share. You are ready to share your feelings about this. I have work to do on this myself, and hopefully we can make the journey together. Sweetheart, listen, if you ever decide that you want to come on here and speak, I am in support of that 100%. I would love to have you on to speak on your experiences. And I leave it at that, because it's up to you on what you want to share and when. But I'm always here for you. You know how to reach me. And I sincerely, you have an open platform with me to share your story anytime you want to. Thank you, Kristen, for thinking that it's important and for showing up. I appreciate you. Granted, we only have 4 people here today. It's a Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the East Coast. It's earlier on the West Coast. People will check it out later. And it's a beautiful day here in Michigan. But I couldn't start my day without focusing on the boy that we lost on February 3rd. Thank you. I'm going to get emotional. Thank you all for coming and spending this time with me. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you to anybody who catches us on the replay. If you want to subscribe. If you want to like the video. If you don't, I don't care. It's not what I'm here for. I'm here to share awareness. I'm here to reach others. I'm here to share the stories of those who can't share their stories or are too afraid to share their stories. And I'm here to share my story, which I'll continue to do because there's definitely stuff I left out in my 3-part personal story. So I am going to sign off for now. I am sending love to everybody from my lifeboat crew and also my unsilenced crew. And as always, I'd like to remind you that if we each do one kind thing for one person today, and we do it every day, we can change the world. And I want to change it before it's over. I want it to be a better place. I want us to be connected. I want us to be able to communicate and to love one another. Give peace a chance. Everybody have a beautiful weekend. And thanks again. Bye for now.